Hi, folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. How bad do you think it's going to get? Like, what are we going to face? I think it's a question that a lot of people are asking. A lot of people are trying to figure it out so that they know a little bit better of how to prepare. And while I don't have the answers, I thought I would give you kind of my opinion, I guess. So please understand that everything that I'm saying here is just based on that. I don't have any kind of deep inside knowledge that you wouldn't have. It's my opinion, also my understanding and knowledge of history, and probably some training and things that I have experienced in my life. I think it is going to get pretty bad. I think that the ones that are in charge in this country and around the world, they believe that what they are doing is right, is going to happen, and they don't really care about your opinions. They don't really care about political parties. They don't care about elections. They don't care. And I think what we have seen happen over the past year and a half, almost 2 years in this country and in other places, prove that. They don't care about the public opinion polls that seem to just continually be going down. They don't care about people protesting. If you look in countries like Australia and places in Europe, they don't care. They don't care. It doesn't stop them. It doesn't slow them down. They just keep pushing forward. They don't care about upcoming elections for whatever reasons. Maybe they're controlled. Maybe it doesn't matter because they have an agenda. They have an agenda that has been foretold for years now of what their intent is in taking over and globalizing everything under one big umbrella, taking away your rights, your liberties, and because, you don't know what's best for you. They do. They believe that. They have this, basically, I guess, a God mentality. It's just what I believe. You don't have to believe that same way. So I do believe that it's going to keep getting worse. I mean, think back just a month, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago. You could probably go back and watch a video of mine where I'm saying the same thing. I believe it's going to get worse. Well, guess what? It's getting worse. It's just like every day. I think it's at that point, to use the analogy of how to cook a frog. You put it on a cold skillet alive, and you turn it up. Actually, this isn't how you cook a frog. I don't know why anyone would do this, but anyways, you all know it. You turn the heat up a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, until it gets to a point that it's hot enough that the frog can't really move. I mean, if you turn it up too fast, the frog's still able to jump out, right? At some point, the frog may still be alive, but it's cooked enough, it's kind of frozen enough, and with the heat, then you can start really cranking it up, and then the cooking process rapidly increases. I think that's where we're at right now. I think over the last couple of years, we have seen and experienced the slow increase of that heat until they're at a point now that they believe that they can really crank the heat up, and it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what we think. And they believe that, I think, because there's enough people that they have convinced through all their methods of manipulation, enough of the population that support them, regardless of how insanely ridiculous it is that what they're saying. So I think they believe that there's enough people. I remember an article a couple of months, maybe 3 months ago, that I had mentioned on here. It was in Newsweek. And I've mentioned this article a few times, so some of you are familiar with it. And it was an interview with some White House staff person. And they were asking about if the president, and I use that term lightly, intends on increasing the mandates and stuff in the same way as say, Australia. And he said, well, we don't want to move things too fast, too quickly. He said, we want to do it slow enough, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, we wanted to do it slow enough so that enough of the American population, the support grows in favor of this before we really start, increasing to the levels of, say, Australia. In other words, saying that, yeah, that's their end goal. They're just doing it in a way that they got to wait till the time is right. I think what we're seeing happen now is kind of that time where they think it's time is ready to kick things into gear. And I think that over the coming weeks and months, it's just going to keep happening. I mean, yesterday or day before or whenever, when the announcement that January 4th, is the new day. If you're not ding ding by January 4th, you're either going to lose your job or your company's probably going to go under based on all the fines that they're going to impose on them. And then immediately after that, OSHA is saying, well, we were saying it was only applied to businesses that had 100 employees, and now it may be less. It may just be all businesses, but it may be less. They're working on that. They're just not going to stop. So what does that mean for us? Without sounding too apocalyptic and too doomsdayish, I think it's going to be pretty bad. The idea that has been floated around that eventually it's going to get to where you can't even go to a grocery store, you can't even buy food, you can't even do this or that. And there's always the other side that says, okay, that's a little extreme. Well, guess what, folks? We are already seeing in this country, people being refused medical care because they don't have it. We've already seen thousands upon thousands, probably well into the tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands at this point, of people that's lost their jobs because they don't have it. That's taking away their ability to take care of their family, to provide for themselves. It's been taken away. We are seeing in certain cities, in certain states, restrictions on where you can go if you don't have it. You can't go to certain restaurants, maybe even places to purchase food. We are seeing it move that direction. So will it get to the point that you are not going to be allowed to participate in public society, that you're not going to be allowed to go about your business and to do the things that you need to do to provide for your family? Yeah, I think it's going to get that way. And I think that it's not going to be, that we're not going to be left alone just because we don't want it. I don't think that they're just going to say, okay, fine, you don't believe like we do, we'll leave you alone. And that's just from the perspective of this. There's also other stuff. All this progressive, immoral garbage that's being shoved down everyone's throat. They're trying to teach it to kids and force it upon them. This new tolerance and acceptance of these, completely, ungodly, unnatural ways that people are living. That's not just going to, stay in their own little groups. They're going to push that upon us. In fact, they've said so. You're going to be, forced, basically, to accept that. And if you don't, you're going to be an outcast of society. That's what they're saying. You get online, all these very progressive people, they're flat out saying, we're coming for you. We're not going to leave you alone. I've used the reference, and I think it's appropriate. Go back into the Old Testament and read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah and Lot and his family that were there. And the people that the wickedness in that city, they weren't leaving him alone, him and his family. They came to his door demanding that he turn over the messengers, and he was trying to, well, here, take my daughters. The point is that I'm making is that they didn't just leave him alone just because he was the only righteous person in that city. They weren't just leaving him alone and saying, okay, so you don't want to be part of us, fine, we'll leave you alone. I don't think that they're just going to leave us alone. How does that play out? There's probably a lot of the questions on people's mind. I don't think we exactly know. I think what we have seen over the last several decades, in which kind of in building into the last year or two, or especially this younger generation, is the ability of the people in power to manipulate everyone's thoughts until they're like cattle. They're like sheep. They're like farming, and if you've ever been around cattle before, they can turn on each other if they get spooked. If they think that one of the cows is doing something, they can, or sheep or whatever, they kind of tend to turn on each other, this herd mentality. And I think that's what we're going to see. I think part of their plan is the one segment of society to turn on the others. And we've already seen that. We're seeing that in all these cities, even though it may not be prominent in the news right now. It was, what was it, last summer, the summer of love is what I think people are calling it, where we saw these massive protests and riots and violence and burning and looting and stuff. While it may not quite be on that scale anymore, that kind of stuff is still going on. I talked to someone yesterday, and I've talked to others recently that either do or have lived recently in some of these big cities, and they said that the Civil War is real in those places, that it's active. The person yesterday, and actually a couple of others, have told me similar stories to where they're at the point that they're wearing body armor. They have done things to kind of fortify their home because of the amount of violence out there, the amount of sheer violence, what people are doing to each other. I mean, it doesn't take very long online to see that some of these cities, most all of these cities, are absolute war zones, more so than they really have ever been. The crime rates, the murder rates, assaults, everything is just through the roof. People are just randomly attacking each other. I think this is the beginning stages of that. I think it's going to spread. I think it's going to get worse, and you're going to see, one side of society attacking each other. Not just because of your normal criminal reasons either. I think that we have to prepare ourselves, because they believe they have an agenda to come after us, and they, what you own isn't yours. It's all part of everyone's. You're unfairly owned too much land, or your beliefs don't align. You can't exist in society because you don't accept all of these, radically progressive Marxist agenda points. And so I think that there's a danger there. I think there's also a danger from the government itself, from the powers that be. They're already coming after you for your job. Will it get to the point that they come door to door? Well, guess what? They're already doing that in some places. I've received, I'm sure, a dozen or two emails in the last few weeks of people that live in certain places saying that, they're showing up at their door. Health department or whatever, agency is showing up at their door here in the United States, not Australia, here in the U.S., checking their status, asking if they've got it, when they're going to get it, all that kind of stuff, taking down information. That stuff is already happening. If you don't know your history, folks, you should start researching and learn it really fast, because as far as I'm aware of, in every society and history that's gone down that path to where they get to the point where we're at now, I am not aware. Now, if I'm wrong, someone pointed out to me. I'm not aware of any that just the brakes have been put on and an abrupt halt, and they do a 180 and they go back to freedom. In every instance that I'm aware of, it continually goes towards tyranny and violence. It continually goes that way. They're at the point now of they're going door to door checking on people, and they're refusing you medical service, and they're telling you can't go to eat where you want to, and you can't have the job that you want to. It's not that many more steps. It's not that many more steps to where they're actually forcibly removing you from your home and taking you somewhere, or forcibly putting something in your body against your will. It's not that many more steps for them to say, guess what? You can't go to the grocery store. You can't have a job. You can't send your kids to school. You can't go to church. You can't do anything, because they've been doing this kind of stuff on a smaller level for months now. And so and as this push is continually increasing, and we're seeing one side just, to the point, I mean, there's numerous videos of people, whether they're just individuals or even people in some level of prominence, are saying that, we should be rounded up. We should be rounded up, and that they should forcibly do the things that they need to do to get us under control, to re-educate us, to put us through. There was an article a week or two ago, and I can't remember the exact place, but it was talking about police officers that are refusing, the thing, and they actually said that they needed to put them through re-education training, re-education training to train them of why they need to comply. The 5 years ago, I would think, 10 years ago, 10 years ago, if this kind of stuff was being talked about, I would think that the majority of the American people would have been like, whoa, 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 whoa. I mean, there's like bells and whistles and lights and sirens going off that this sounds like, Nazi Germany. This sounds like communist Russia. This sounds like, communist China and Cuba and all these other places. And we're at a place now that part of the population, they don't care. They just want to comply because that's what they're supposed to do. And the other part of the population that's protesting and that's resisting this are being shut up and told that they're outcasts, told that they don't belong in society, told that they're criminal, they're terrorists, or whatever it is. So the possibility of this that we are experiencing now, not just this, but everything going down that path, yeah, I think it's possible to get there. As the supply chain problems worsen, as we see less and less stuff, as people become more desperate, desperation leads to dangerous things. Will there be a day that our neighbors are turning on each other? That out of desperation, people are doing things to take care of themselves, to feed themselves, to just to survive. Well, we've seen that in other countries. Look at Venezuela. And, right now, most people think of Venezuela as some little third world country. And you're like, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that happens. That's not true. Venezuela used to be one of the most dominant and prominent economies and nations on this planet. They was a very oil-rich country, a very prosperous country. They were the second largest purchasers of Ford F-150s on the planet. People were doing very well there, and it got out of control. Long story short, and people are that way now, and they have been, and it's awful there. Okay, I've talked to people that came from Venezuela just recently in the last couple of years, that's told their stories. Can we get to that place here in the United States? I think we can. Is any one of the things going on going to get us there? Maybe not. But when you look at the totality of everything that's happening, all the stuff with the economy, with just simple morality and what this division of right and wrong and acceptance and tolerance, and then this ridiculous health crisis and the globalist push for all this climate and everything else, when you put it all together, could we get to that point to where we're defending ourselves physically against, from our neighbors, from marauding bands of people coming through communities to do what they want, or from the government itself trying to impose and enforce their rules on us? Yeah, I think it's possible. And not to sound, again, too doomsdayish, I think that's one of the reasons why we should prepare and why we should build communities and connections and why we should do everything we can to live in a place that's a little bit safer. Are we completely safe where I'm living right now? And can I know in my head and heart that we will never have to face that? No, that's not true. But are we safer living here than we would be in Detroit or San Francisco or Chicago or East St. Louis? Absolutely. We're already safer than that. So it's that's why I encourage that kind of stuff. In the end, yeah, I do believe things are going to continue to get worse. Like I said just a minute ago, I'm not aware of any point in history that a society and a nation has gone down a similar path that they just abruptly stopped and things just started getting better out of nowhere. It's like we've crossed the Rubicon, and I don't foresee things just randomly getting better all of a sudden. I think we're going to continue to go and spin out of control until we hit that rock bottom, and then where do we go? I don't know. But that's why we get ourselves ready. That's why you should be getting your houses in order, preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.